Senator Sam Slom is the only Republican in the Hawaii State Senate, and he represents the 8th District. He's also the president of Smart Business Hawaii and is also an accomplished author, speaker, and economist. Welcome to Maui, Sam.
Aloha. Thank you, Joe. It's now the 9th senatorial district, though, after reapportionment. You may recall that the Big Island got an additional senator. Oahu lost one, so 8th, which had been my district, became the district in Kauai, and we're now the 9th, which is East Honolulu.
Okay.
But same people, same great people, same great island.
But you are the only Republican in the Senate.
It's really funny, and I had my research staff check in other states, and apparently I'm the only person of one party, either Republican or Democrat, in either a House or Senate in any state, and that's been the same way for 15, 20 years.
So do you find that you get a larger podium to stand on when you speak then, or do people listen to you? Or
Well, I would hope that they would listen to me. It's interesting, you know, for 25 years I told everybody that I was not interested in politics. I would never run. I said, in fact, that no, not me, not ever. One of the things in youth you learn, you know, when you get older, never say never, because things present themselves and they're different. So when I ran, I still maintain that I'm a business owner. I'm a business consultant. I'm an economic consultant by profession. But at one time, after saying for 25 years I wasn't going to run, I've been there for 17 years now. I can't even believe that.
Yeah.
And we went from, when I first was elected, there were 2 Republicans, then there were 3, 4, 5, back down to 3, 2, and then since 2010, just 1. But I don't know. I think it's a combination of the fact that I've been there long enough now. I know where the bodies are buried. I do get along quite well with most of my colleagues, not all of them, and most of them are great people. Some of them should be in jail, you know, but most of them are really good. And I've outlasted 5 Senate presidents now, including Colleen Hanabusa, who's now Congresswoman, and Shan Tsutsui from Maui, who's a lieutenant governor. And as I say, they've treated me well. I could have never made it, though, Joe, in the House, because I would have been, oh my gosh, I would have been taken by handcuffs off the podium. They allow me to speak basically unlimited in the Senate. I don't take advantage of that. And years ago, I decided I wasn't going to play gotcha with my colleagues. If I find something wrong or whatever, I'll usually let them know about it first, let them try to correct it. When you're outnumbered 24-1, which, by the way, those are not bad odds if you're in the lottery, you know, when it's about 170 million to 1.
Yeah.
24-1 is not bad.
Yeah.
But if you get outvoted a lot, 24-1, you realize, okay, they're going to pass the legislation anyway. But I'll go to the leadership, I'll go to the Senate president, go to the majority leader and say, hey, look, this is what my research guys and gals turned up, and you may want to tweak that and change it. I know you're going to pass it. I still think it's a lousy bill, but at least pass a good bill. The frustrating thing is most times they won't do it. They'll say, we'll pass it now, and we'll come back next year and do that. So,
yeah. You know, I was reading the publication that you put out listing all the bills that you said no to.
Yeah.
And is that, do you say no a lot?
You know, I'm proud that I hold the NCAA indoor and outdoor record of voting no. But yet, doing that, 90% of the votes, I still go along with my colleagues. I remember when I first got elected, and when I first made that fateful decision to run back in 1996, I'll tell you, I did some soul searching. Would I run as a Republican, or would I run as a Libertarian? Because philosophically, I'm definitely a conservative, libertarian Republican. But I ran as a Republican because the Libertarian Party at that time was not too well organized.
And speaking of Republican Libertarians, another person who says no a lot is Ron Paul.
Oh, absolutely.
So that kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah,
anyway,
you know, and my point is, my Libertarian friends, I think, were disappointed when I first got elected because they hoped and expected me to vote no on everything, because everything, just about, is an incursion, bigger government. And I said, look, if you're going to play this game, if you're going to be involved in this, you've got to have people take you seriously. And if you vote no on everything, they're not going to do that. So what I've tried to do over the years, I've tried to make reasoned arguments. And I remember the first speech I ever made in the state capitol, in the Senate floor, I said to my colleagues, look, I don't know how you're going to vote on this issue, or others that are coming along. But I see my role as twofold. One, I'm here to represent the 49% of the people that voted for somebody else other than you. And number two, I'm here to tell you I'm going to work really hard and try to explain what some of the unintended and other consequences are, so that years from now, you're not going to have the luxury to say, oh, that's what the bill means. I didn't know.
No one told me.
Nobody told me.
Yeah.
My secretary, so I've tried to do that over the years. And as I say, grudgingly, I think many of my colleagues, they know that just like a good lobbyist has to always tell the truth and not overblow the situation, I try to get the best research and get the information so that we do get better legislation. And it's been hard.
Can I talk a little bit about Maui's economy?
Sure.
You know, the other day I was at the grocery store just trying to buy some milk, and I saw a tourist there just in sticker shock.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Why is it so expensive?" And I was thinking, "Yeah, why is everything so expensive?
Yeah.
So why is everything so expensive?"
Well, that's real easy. You know, people for years have been talking about the so-called paradise tax, why everything in the whole state average is like 40% higher, which is crazy. But they've got it right. It's the tax. It's the taxes. It's the fees. It's the regulations. It's the employer mandates. All of those things make it expensive. Now, look, if you're in one of the 49 mainland states, or as our beloved president says, 57 states, but I'm traditional, 49 other states.
Mm-hmm.
If things get expensive, whether it's housing or gasoline or food or whatever, you can downsize and you go, you know, maybe to a rural area or to another part of the county.
Move. I see. So
right,
you go with your feet.
Or you go to another state.
Right.
But you can't do that in Hawaii. What happens if you go from Oahu to Maui? Do the prices go down?
They go up.
They go up,
yeah.
Because you've got a transship. So basically, it's the taxes and all of those things, the bureaucracy.
What are some of the worst regulations that you can pinpoint around? Like, for let's say I'm starting a business.
Sure.
What would be just name one thing that.
Well, you know, we were very proud that we have a general excise tax. Nobody else does. It's not a sales tax. It's a gross income tax. And as Lowell Kalapa of the Tax Foundation has often said, we pay 4.5% on Oahu. You pay 4% here because we have that lovely rail that's going from cow pasture to cow pasture and nowhere else. That 4.5%, if you translated it into a sales tax, then it would be in the range of 18 to 21% without the kinds of basic exemptions that you have in the mainland.
General excise tax, by the way, is just if you're a business, then like what's the difference between that and maybe another kind of tax for?
Well, it's a tax on every transaction there is. And you don't even have to be a business. You could be a school. You could be a nonprofit. You could be little Susie with her lemonade stand, and the state will come after you for the 4%. So it's every
4%. So if it's a small percentage,
size
it ends up being
size
big
doesn't
because,
matter, as the women say.
Yeah.
The other part of that, though, is the fact that it is so invasive, and it has a really bad feature called pyramiding. And that means if you were manufacturing something, for example, or you were getting it from a wholesaler to a manufacturer to an intermediary, there's a tax at every level. It may be a lesser tax at 0.5%, but it adds up and pyramids so that you're paying tax on top of tax.
And in other states, they don't have that.
No other state. And that's why I started to say, when it was passed 60 years ago, we were so proud of ourselves. And we said, oh, this is so wonderful. We're so far ahead of everybody else, and everybody's going to pass a tax like this. No one did. We have the only state where there's a statewide single school district. And we said, this is so progressive. This is so wonderful. Everybody's going to have this. No other state passed it. We were the first to have the Prepaid Health Care Act, which was the precursor of Obamacare now. And we said again, it's so wonderful. Everybody can see what a great thing it is to force every business to pay for every employee who works more than 19 hours per week. No other state passed it.
We're the most progressive in the United States, but sometimes we're also the least business friendly as well.
Well, you're right on both accounts. You can say progressive or liberal or leftist. The fact of the matter is we have been a laboratory for every cockamamie social welfare program that there has been. We lead the nation now in food stamp distribution, which is quite an achievement. And the other end of that is what you said. If you look at any organization that rates businesses across the country, whether they be industrial or trade associations or groups like Heritage or Reason or Cato or ALEC, you look at them, we always rank at the bottom of the list, 49 or 50.
Right.
And it's not because we don't have people that know how to create jobs or to create goods and services. We do. And we've done that, but we wind up exporting most of that and exporting those people as well. That's the sad thing.
Speaking of exporting and, importing, I want to talk about the Jones Act. Now, tell me if I have this right.
Okay.
The Jones Act creates shipping protections.
Yes.
And so a ship can go, has trouble taking goods from one American port to another American port.
Doesn't have trouble, it can't do it.
It can't
against
do
the
it.
law. That's right.
So I'm talking. So if I have an international ship,
yes,
with an international flag, like say a Hong Kong ship or something, and I take, can I travel with my goods from Hong Kong to Hawaii?
Well, you could if that's what you wanted to do. It's like the cars that come from Asia. The cars could come directly to Hawaii, and that would save us some money. But what do? They go to L.A. or San Francisco, and then they're transshipped back here. So you have a double cost: the cost getting to the West Coast and the cost coming here.
I see. So it gets put on an international ship to L.A., and then perhaps it will be put on an American ship to Hawaii.
The idea was twofold. 100 years ago, to protect American shipping, make sure that the ships were American bottom ships, that they were built in America, and now we don't build ships in America. And number two, in case there was an outbreak of war or hostilities, we want to make sure that those ships are American and they can carry goods. Well, that's long since disappeared on both accounts. And you've got American companies that, of course, they buy foreign bottom ships and they have foreign crews. And we saw the ultimate of the Jones Act in Katrina and with the BP oil spill. You were not allowed to have foreign ships come to aid in the rescue efforts because they could only stop at one port, and there was no exemption made. Now, the good news is people like John Carroll and myself and Ken Schoolen and others have been fighting this for decades. And for a long period of time, we weren't even, not on the back burner, we weren't even in the same room. Then we went to the back burner. Now it's on the front burner. Mm-hmm. And part of that is because Senator Inouye is no longer with us, big supporter of the maritime industry, big beneficiary of their largesse for campaigns. Okay. But secondly, we're seeing now, you can't in one breath talk about having a global economy and then having a law that is so provincial that it doesn't allow for the realities of international shipping. It adds easily 20 to 30% of the costs of goods coming to Hawaii. So at least now we're discussing it. We've got people that are really in opposition to it, and I'm hopeful that in the next couple of years, either we'll get an exemption for places like Puerto Rico, Alaska, and Hawaii, or we'll abolish it altogether. And I think first step is the exemption.
And I know that some people I talked to about this, they're so surprised to hear about the Jones Act.
Yes.
I know I was very surprised. And once they hear about it, they start thinking along
Doesn't
the
make
lines,
sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Right.
And the only people that I've heard oppose it are the shipping unions.
Yes.
And now the
maritime industry itself.
And some of the argument that I heard is that national security.
Yes.
So can you address that, national security? If the Jones Act, if we abolish it, then we're going to have a national security problem.
I don't think so. First of all, our national security problem is with the Obama White House right now. We don't know whether we have security or not. Secondly, we seem to be helping our enemies and the people that tell us straight out, we hate you, death to America. So it's at best a mixed defense policy. But look, we're building new naval ships, we're building new destroyers, we're building new aircraft carriers. That's our first line of defense, plus our aircraft, plus our missiles, plus spying on people and drones. So
you're saying there's a lot bigger things to worry about when it comes to defense than just the Jones Act.
And the main thing is this is something that could really put money back in people's pockets, and at the same time would increase trade, and it certainly would be beneficial to Maui and the neighbor islands, probably to a greater extent than even to Oahu.
I was thinking the other day about since we're in the middle of the ocean, yes, prices will obviously be more expensive. But then I thought, well, aren't we closer to China? Aren't we closer to Hong Kong and all these other places? perhaps prices would be less than the mainland. You never know. I guess
just a point on that.
Yeah.
A quick point on that. Some of us who watched the daily spot prices of oil on the Dow Jones, the spot price is given in Texas crude, and for the last 6-9 months now, it's been hovering around $86 to $96 per barrel. But Hawaiian Electric and local companies buy their oil on the Asian market, and guess what? They're paying $146 to $150 a barrel, and that's why when you look at your Maui Electric bill or Hawaiian Electric or Hilo Electric, you look on there and you find this much is for energy, this much is for surcharges and taxes, and one of those is fuel surcharge. And you would think, as we did in the old days, we used to get breaks on oil. Not anymore. Now we're paying a premium for it.
And speaking of public utilities, I was also looking at you just proposed an alternative budget.
Yes.
If you could make your own budget, what would you keep and what would you cut?
Well, it's a good point. For years, the Senate minority has had an alternative budget. But this year, we had a young fellow named Paul Harleman, who is our budget director, and he worked harder in more detail than anybody else. We worked with the state budget director, Calbert Young, originally from Maui, a guy that I really have respect for because he doesn't spin the figures. He tells it like it is and all that. And every step of the way when we were developing our alternative, we said, Calbert, tell us what's wrong or what are we missing or what we haven't done. And he said, no, you did it okay. And then we talked to Senator David Ige, the head of the Senate Ways and Means Committee. David, did we miss something here? No. Why did I ask that question? Because our budget is $6 billion less than the $24 billion budget passed, and that budget goes in a different direction. It starts weaning us off continually spending for, union salary increases and subsidies and grants and aid and all of those things. And you got to. Calbert, by the way, says, and he said to my group, Smart Business Hawaii, at a public meeting 3 months ago, by 2017, if the state does not raise taxes substantially and continues its spending and debt policies, the state will be bankrupt. Let me say that again. Here's the state budget director, part of the Abercrombie administration, saying by 2017, this state will be bankrupt if we don't substantially raise taxes. And look, we got a population statewide of $1.3 million. We passed a $24 billion state budget. Our city and county of Honolulu is another $2.16 billion. We have a $500 million in salary increases. We got $5 billion in other appropriations, OHA budget, judiciary budget, grants and aid. Who can pay for all that? We can, because we're the only ones here. Plus, then we got to take care of that $17 trillion deficit at the federal level. So we showed that you can get rid of some programs that are non-performing. I'll give you an example. I'm a businessman. I'm not a politician. And I love business and I love entrepreneurship. The State Department of Business and Economic Development and Tourism takes over $100 million a year. We don't need it. It hasn't done a thing for business. Get rid of it. Abolish it. State Department of Health, it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, gets involved in more things, not for health, but for bureaucracy and government. Cut it down in half. We can look at my alma mater, the University of Hawaii, and if anybody's been following what's going on with the excessive salaries, with the wasted money, with all those problems, there's many things that we can cut, and we showed that in our budget, which, by the way, is online and is available on the Senate Minority website.
Now, let's say I have a family, and why should I care about your budget? You're cutting all these things. You're cutting perhaps my pension. Why should I care about you striving for that?
Well, it's a good question. It's a valid question. First of all, we're not cutting your pension. As bad as the government has been in terms of excessive salaries and benefits and things like that, what I've always said publicly, the government has got a responsibility to keep its promises. And even if those promises are costly, it's got to do that first. Why? Because the people that relied upon that, they're at retirement age, they can't get additional monies and things like that. But for 10, 12 years now, I've been urging that when you start with new employees, don't give them the salary, don't give them the benefits, don't give them the holidays. And the legislature was reluctant to do that until 2 years ago. Now they're doing it, but much less than I would. But why should people watch what's going on and what the legislature does? Because it affects you. And I know, when I start talking about the budget or taxes, people's eyes glaze over.
Yeah, they glaze over. Yeah.
But you've got to understand it's your money. We're not down there slapping ourselves on the back and saying, good job, Sam. You did a wonderful job spending $24 billion. I'm spending your money and your family's money and your relatives' money. And that's why everybody has a time struggling today.
If you, let's say you got your budget passed.
Yeah.
I read that the taxes for some would go down to zero, or maybe a corporate tax would go down to zero, and other taxes would decrease.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes,
and would that
true.
help a family of, let's say I was a regular family, how much would my taxes go down?
Yeah. Well, of course, that would depend on your income and all of that.
Right.
But here's part of the problem, both nationally and locally. We now have more people with their hands out. Maybe you walk down Kihei and you see people with larger hands. Those are the ones. They've got their hands out all the time. Whether it's 40%, 48% nationally or locally. As I mentioned earlier, we now lead the nation in food stamp distribution, and some people think that's a great idea. We got people that believe that they're entitled to this money, that they're entitled for me to pay for them, that they don't have to pay for anything. And I'm from the old school. I think everybody should pay something. Mm-hmm. Certainly, people that are not earning much would not pay as much. But we've gotten onto this thing, this battle that the Obama administration has really taken forward against the rich, against the successful. We used to cheer for people that were successful because we understood that if they were successful, they would create more jobs or create more opportunities for us to do it. But now you've got people that absolutely say, I shouldn't have to pay. And if you're living in a republic, you're living in a democracy, then everybody should have to pay something, because then they got skin in the game. If they don't, and they just go down and lobby, they exchange their entitlement for votes, and they've been getting it. But we have to do something about that. And that's why I said our alternative budget, while not perfect, and doesn't solve all of the problems, changes the direction. And I'm afraid the only other way that we're going to change direction in Hawaii is when we run out of money, and the people are still lined up. We want our free bread. We want our circus, and people will have to tell them no, and it could get ugly, like it has in Greece.
Right, in Greece and all the different countries around. I just have one more question. I'm thinking about, it is so inspiring to listen to you say these unpopular things. I mean, to be honest, you don't hear people talking like you.
See, that's the really funny thing, Joe.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, you didn't hear anything else. I never knew when I was growing up. My father was a business owner, small business owner. My mother was a small business owner. She didn't know anything about glass ceilings. She didn't know she couldn't do it. She went out and did it. And I got to tell you, I didn't know anybody that worked for the government unless they were in the military, police, or fire. What else would you do? Why would you need the government?
Now, half the people I know are, more than half the people I know.
And that's part of the difference. So you're saying it's something unusual to say, and you're probably right about that. And that's a sad commentary on the times and on our economic structure.
Well, I think it's so inspiring to watch you, and I'll keep continuing to. And
you're the one that's watching me. I knew there was somebody watching me. Good for you.
Great, yeah. So again, thanks for joining us on Maui.
My pleasure. And anytime I can do anything to help anyone, I'm easily accessible. Call me, write me, email me, whatever. One of the reasons I finally decided to run for office, I was tired of calling government agencies, and they put you on hold or they never get back to you. You don't have to be a senator or representative to get that attention. As a taxpayer, you deserve it, and we are public servants. So anything I can do, be glad to. Aloha and Maui no ko'oi.